Hello, everybody. Welcome into Tuesday, our Gamer Tuesday show here on Computer America. And as always, we have a stellar show planned for you. We're going to have Josh Boykin, our gamer correspondent, is joining us for both hours. Should be a lot of fun. We're going to be talking about all kinds of very interesting topics. And we'll be starting in about a minute and a half. So get your game face on as we begin 2 hours of the Computer America show here on our Gamer Tuesday show. Okay. So
NASA has a new announcement.
What is?
NASA.
NASA has a new announcement. What? They have a new game?
Space is still there.
No, yeah, Space is still there. No, they this actually just came out like an hour ago, but
until showtime.
Right, this actually just came out about an hour ago, but they said they found 1,284 new exoplanets.
Oh my gosh.
What's the definition? So what is an exoplanet?
Exoplanet is, I assume, any planet outside our
solar system?
Yeah,
Solar
outside
system.
our solar system.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah, exactly. And even that definition keeps moving. They keep shifting that little line. Sometimes Pluto isn't, sometimes there isn't. The solar system gets bigger and smaller depending on who you're talking to these days.
Right, and well, I guess the cool thing was that it doubles our known planets out there, so that's cool.
Ever since Neil deGrasse Tyson said Pluto wasn't the planet, I've been miffed. But anyhow, all right, here we go. 10 seconds as of now.
Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting live, it's America's longest-running national radio talk show on computers, Computer America, hosted by national columnist Craig Crossman. Look for Craig's weekly column in your favorite newspaper. This show is being beamed nationwide at ComputerAmerica.com. Keep it here for technology news, computer products, guest interviews, and your phone calls. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America show. It's the nation's longest-running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers. Computer America is heard around the world and coast to coast. And I'm your host, Craig Crossman.
And I'm your co-host, Ben.
And it is our Gamer Tuesday show. Yes, it's all about computers and games and entertainment, and we've got a lot of things to talk about on today's program. Josh Boykin is joining us here, our Computer America gamer correspondent. He's back from wherever he was before, somewhere on the road, but he is home, but only for a short time, and then he's off again. He just can't keep him down. Boy, he just keeps bouncing around the country. But it's all going to be about computer games. We're going to be talking about the PlayStation 4.5. We're going to be talking about the Nintendo NX. We got a whole bunch of topics we're going to be talking about on today's show. If you have a comment or a question, we would certainly love to hear from you. Give us a call. Pick up the phone. 347-884-8881. That's the phone number to call. 347-884-8881. We'll get you on and get you through. But if you don't want to go on the air, you still want to ask a question, pose a theory, postulate a theorem, whatever you want to do, head over to ComputerAmerica.com. Any page there, on the upper right-hand corner, it says Submit a Question. Just click it. It's a link. It'll take you to our question submission page. You can type in your question, hit the Submit button, and Ben and I will see what you've typed instantaneously. Okay. The other thing we strongly invite you and encourage you to do is watch our live video stream. When we are on live, Monday through Friday, 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time, we have live video streaming. So you can see Josh, you can see Ben. Ben also has the technology to display websites, videos, links, movies, all the things that make the show even more interesting, and we invite you to watch it. Just head over again to ComputerAmerica.com. Any page there, you'll see it says Show Lounge in the menu bar. Just click it. You'll be taken to our live video streaming page. You'll be joined to the show already in progress, and you can watch the show. Everything you need to know about our program is at ComputerAmerica.com, the internet home of our radio broadcast. 347-884-8881. The best way to get in touch with us. We'd love to hear from you. So, Ben, anything you want to mention before we get Josh in on the action here?
Anything else? No. Hopefully everyone out there is ready for our Gamer Tuesday. It's where we discuss everything consoles, consoles, computers, news, anything like that is video game related is fair game. So,
All right.
no pun, but no, just looking forward to having Josh on, and there's a lot of stuff to talk about.
Well, as I said, it's our Gamer Tuesday show with Computer America correspondent Josh Boykin. With over 25 years of gaming experience, Josh knows a thing or two about games. Professionally, he's written about games since 2009 for multiple outlets and attend multiple industry events like the Electronic Entertainment Expo, that's E3 in Los Angeles, the Game Developers Conference in San Francisco, the Consumer Electronics Show in Vegas, and so many more. Now, as an associate editor for PopZero.com, senior editor for GotGame.com, and the founder of the game culture and criticism site Intelligame.us, Josh strives to deepen people's understanding of games as well as the world they play them in. Josh, welcome into Computer America. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing pretty well. How are you?
Okay.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
Thanks for the new intro. It's that's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it is.
It's a tongue twister, but you navigated it very well.
Yeah, very well. Listen, we are professional here. We try to be, but yes, it's it's an impressive resume, and we should let our listeners know, your qualifications. They are quite impressive, and we want people to know. All of our correspondents are like that. When we send out an invitation or we invite someone to be a Computer America correspondent, they are carefully chosen and selected. We want to make sure that they are qualified, know what they're talking about, or
listen, the bar to become a Computer America correspondent is so high, and it's not like that slacker position of co-host. It's up there. You have to know your stuff. Co-host can be any old shit.
Yeah, we just
us no.
people off the street, for that. But for correspondence,
Right.
And we have an impressive stable of correspondents here in Computer America. I have to say, over the years we've generated, and they know their stuff, and we make sure that they do before they wear the label of Computer America correspondent. So you should feel very proud and very honored to be one of those people, Josh.
Well, thank you.
Exactly.
I hope my badge is in the mail.
Yeah, all right, exactly. So, anyhow, we always ask Josh, we have a little pre-show, we talk about, what you'd like to talk about, some of the hot topics, and I'm going to kind of defer to you. There's a number of them here that you've given us. We have 2 hours to talk about them. Is there anything in particular you'd like to lead with, Josh, to start off here? Because there are so many things to talk about.
Well, I tell you, I mean, I know we just talked about it, and I just watched the trailer a bit ago, but it'd be awesome to start with the Battlefield 1 and Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, since those are kind of fresh in the mind.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So, what did you think of the trailers?
So, I mean, for kind of everybody who hasn't watched it, though, I mean, definitely worth checking out. Both the new Call of Duty and new Battlefield, which are the big, AAA giant budget 3D first-person shooters. They both dropped their new trailers pretty recently. Call of Duty Infinite Warfare takes the battle to more skies, like
the last sky, the last frontier.
yeah, the final frontier.
Right.
So Call of Duty Infinite Warfare takes the battle into space. Obviously, big action-packed trailer, lots of explosions, as one would expect. Battlefield 1, on the other hand, also big action-packed trailer, lots of explosions, but they take the fight back to World War I. So there are, instead of seeing satellites and jumping around in space, or whatever, you've got tanks driving over trenches and World War I, fighter planes, and they obviously have a very big contrast in what they're presenting. There's also a pretty big contrast in the YouTube response to both.
Yeah,
trailers.
that has to be the weirdest thing about all this. I mean, it's definitely awesome that the two franchises are taking it in a different direction, because always it seemed like whatever Call of Duty did, Battlefield did, whatever Battlefield did, Call of Duty did, just in a slightly different flair. And then you had your fanboys. But now you have a legitimate reason to say, Well, Battlefield went with this direction. They went old school. Not even World War II. As is their origin. They went even before that. They went World War One, and then Battlefield said, we can make this almost Halo-esque, and they went a completely different direction with the futuristic sci-fi stuff. And YouTube likes and dislikes, they mean something, but the disparity between these two.
Yeah. I mean, I'm here. I'll look at the up-to-date numbers right now so that
We're current.
we provide. Yeah, we want to provide the most accurate information possible.
And well, I have Battlefield 1 right here, 23 million views, and folks, it's only been out for like 4 days. 23 million views, and 1.226 million likes.
That's huge.
That's a lot.
As opposed, and in contrast, Call of Duty Infinite Warfare has about 16.1, almost 16.2 million views, with 1.587 million dislikes.
Jeez.
Now, on one hand, I do have to say, like, I'm glad that people are excited about Battlefield. I hope I haven't been saying Battlefront on.
No, Battlefield, right?
But I'm glad that people are excited about Battlefield 1. I've always thought that Battlefield has a lot of interesting mechanics. The ability to get into vehicles. There really has never been any vehicle-based warfare in Call of Duty, and being able to jump in a tank or drive like a Humvee around and take other troops. There are a bunch of different ways to participate in these really large-scale battles, which I think is really neat in the Battlefield franchise. So the idea that they have taken an opportunity to really set themselves apart from the competition is very smart. But there's a part of me that can't help but wonder how much of this like massive liking or massive disliking is just kind of an opportunity. Everybody gets to jump on the bandwagon. Like, it's free to click like, it's free to click dislike. And everybody loves to hate on Call of Duty. They love to hate on Call of Duty for years.
Why is that? Why?
I think it's the. As somebody who doesn't like the Yankees, I can say, it's cool to not like the Yankees. Like, they're the best team money can buy. They win a bunch, and when you win a lot, it makes people not like you that much. Call of Duty does have a reputation for not really
no innovation.
changing a lot. Yeah, like they don't really iterate on their ideas. They just reiterate them. That said, I think that there was a marked difference between Call of Duty Ghosts, which I think is probably the poorest rated Call of Duty, and then the follow-ups, which were Call of Duty Advanced Warfare, or actually, yeah, Modern Warfare 3, then Advanced Warfare, and Black Ops 3. When I went into Black Ops 3, and I think I remember us talking about this a few months ago, I played the beta for the multiplayer.
Mm-hmm.
And was like, yeah, this is just another Call of Duty. Forget about it. Don't worry about it.
Right.
And then by the time the game actually released, like, movement mechanics were a lot smoother. The single player campaign is actually really fleshed out and makes a couple of attempts at trying to be innovative by allowing you to play any mission in any order instead of going from front to back. You have female combatants. You can play through the campaign as either a male or a female character. And they have a lot of things that they did to really change the formula and make it fresh. I mean, a lot of people who I know had given up on Call of Duty, or at least personal friends of mine, ended up picking it up and are still playing it today. I don't think that gets Call of Duty out of having the reputation of not innovating, though. So I do think that this is kind of a perfect storm. I do liken this to Ghostbusters 2016.
Yeah.
Everybody finds out that people are hating on Ghostbusters on the new all-female Ghostbusters or whatever, and then again, it becomes cool to go and check out the trailer and dislike it. And I can bet that there are tons of people who went and disliked the Call of Duty trailer who liked the Battlefield trailer for exactly the same reasons.
I believe you're absolutely right. I mean, not really going to get into Ghostbusters because that's a whole other thing. But the Call of Duty and Battlefield thing. I mean, really, this is one of the first times that they have gone a different way. I mean, it's always been, other than a couple of kind of setbacks in the Call of Duty and Battlefield line, it's always been, start with World War II, Vietnam War, the Iraq War and the Afghanistan War, and then you get into 10 years in the future, 20 years in the future, and Battlefield and Call of Duty kind of kept the same pace with each other. They were always about the same era. And this is the first time where Call of Duty looks like it's going to be in year 2150 with all the flying suits and the spaceships, whereas Battlefield's going to be 1910 or 1914. When did World War I start? 1914. 1914 to 1918. There you go. And I think people like the idea of I guess the futuristic stuff doesn't appeal to some first-person shooters because if they can't relate to the weapons you're using, if they can't relate to the setting, that's Britain in 1914. If they can't relate to the characters there because now they're all talking about kind of superhuman stuff, if they can't relate, then they really don't care. Right. And I think that's some of what's leading into this is that I've heard some of the feedback that Battlefield looks so much more relatable because admittedly, not historically accurate. Let's face it, this is going to be a video game. It's going to be a AAA.
Around with capes.
Right. But, at least it's World War I as opposed to some futuristic, space war. And so people are really identifying with that aspect of, hey, this kind of happened.
But didn't we also brought up a couple of other points, and I'm kind of curious what Josh's take is on, because it's World War I, and it's one of the earlier wars that actually it was a lot more violent, it was a lot more bloody. I likened it to the Civil War, which is probably one of the bloodiest battles that we had because the technology was in place and such that people really didn't have.
For some reason, the Oregon Trail just started playing in my head. It's like Call of Duty mixed or Battlefield mixed with the Oregon Trail. It's like, well, you're on your way to your next mission, but then 3 of your teammates died of dysentery, and someone got bit by a rattlesnake, and now there's only 4 of you. Oregon Trail started playing, but yes, much more brutal.
Well, I mean, I think that'll be interesting to see. I mean, one of the Call of Duty, Battlefield, these first-person shooters have always been hyper-violent. The gunplay, the number of enemy combatants, quote unquote, that get killed, and predominantly, in some of these franchises, lives of Muslims or whatever group we've decided to villainize for the group, for the game today. Mm-hmm. I think that the interesting thing about going back to World War I, bayonets are still a thing, right? In World War I.
Yes, that's true.
So that's, I think that's a really visceral form of combat compared to, Call of Duty Black Ops 3, where you call in a swarm of B-sized drones and they, come in and now given, hearing the screams of somebody as they're ravaged by insect drones, that's also pretty messed up. It's funny how if you play the game and those things happen, you process that it's kind of messed up, but then when you have to talk about it on a talk show with no video or anything that you're doing, you're like, and this is what happened. You're like, oh, actually, that's really messed up. It's funny how that works.
Yeah, death robots are a touchy subject when you get into it.
Yeah, at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. But anyway, so the White House Correspondents,
Yeah.
Anyway, so so I think it'll be interesting to see how EA decides to handle, what will be, I imagine, a slower, more graphic violence. Mm-hmm. I don't know whether they'll try to maintain kind of the arcade. I think it's always had a slightly slower pace than Call of Duty. Call of Duty's always had kind of a faster arcade style pace. But at the same time, when you look at that Battlefield trailer, it moves around, it jumps around just as fast. Things are blowing up just as often. Planes are flying around, all sorts of stuff. At the end of the day, I don't know that either Battlefield or Call of Duty has a great reputation for being particularly cinematic. or particularly quality storytelling. I think Call of Duty has done a better job of it in recent years. Uh, but
They're they're both definitely all about the multiplayer. Like that's what sells the experience is that, even
you
though they're so similar to each other, the fact that, at the end of the day, when a new one comes out, everyone's going to jump ship to the new one. So why have the old one if you can't play the multiplayer with friends because everyone has the newest one?
Yeah, no, and I think multiplayer is what keeps, it's what keeps the franchises alive. It's what sells DLC, obviously map packs, new weapons, that kind of thing. But it's a discussion that I've been having with a lot of people lately that I really feel that what makes a franchise sell or what makes a franchise establish is its attention to story and character. What we'll talk about later, a little bit, are these new shooters, right? Overwatch, Paragon, and I don't know if we'll talk Battleborn much, but the thing about Overwatch is that people are already completely in love with this game, and yes, it's a good game, but they're also, I mean, these characters, they have tons of cinematics, um, and I think that part of what gets people attached to the characters in the gameplay, or what gets them attached to the gameplay, are the characters and the stories behind it. Even if they're not going to pay attention forever, it's just enough to dig them in. Um, and that's where the single player campaign is important. It's what happened with Titanfall, where, yes, it's a fantastic multiplayer shooter. Every time I get back to play that game, I remember I'm like, wow, I can't believe this game is still this good. Um, but I don't think that it caught fire the way that it could have, because like Team A and TB or Team A and Team B were essentially, it didn't matter. You don't know who they
Hmm.
are. You don't care who they are. And so the second that somebody decides to switch to another game, you don't have that tie back to what's happening. So I really think Battlefield has an advantage here, or has the ability to really set themselves apart by utilizing World War One, which is an entire, segment of world history that is not frequently explored in video games.
Yeah, that World War
That's a
II
great
really
idea.
stole the focus. It just
Yeah, how dare you?
overshadowed it. I know, right? It was a great war.
Well, I mean, but not the Great War, which
Right.
is what I was actually about to say. Valiant Hearts: The Great War, which is a sort of puzzle, a 2D puzzler by Ubisoft,
Hmm.
um, is in my opinion one of the best games to explore World War One. It's got a comic, cell shaded style to it. And you take over, I believe, either 4 or 6 different characters as they go through their respective lives in World War One, and it's amazingly well done. It's well thought out, and shows that there's a lot of heart that we can be plugging into this part of history if we choose.
All right. Okay.
But yeah. So I mean, Battlefield One, Call of Duty, Infinite Warfare, they'll both be coming out this holiday season as usual. They always have new releases. But yeah, I think the gameplay, as far as the trailer goes, from what little gameplay they actually did show for Call of Duty, because it is getting so much flack. But I think the flack it's getting is for the direction they're taking it. The roots of the franchise has always been World War II, bolt action rifles, classic guns, classic scenarios, and now they're going, they're they're overhauling the whole thing and saying we're going to the future, and and people are a little mad at that they want a return to what the franchise started as, but the gameplay honestly look fine. I mean, it's your classic first-person shooter, lots of action, blah blah blah. It's gonna have all the explosions of Michael Bay that you could ever hope for. And Battlefield One, same thing. I definitely do like the vehicle combat. You mentioned, they had the Red Baron planes as they're going and trying to dogfight each other. The gameplay looks spot on. Like, I think gameplay wise, they're both going to be really really good. It's just right now the fans are definitely lashing out at the two different directions the settings are in
Well, I mean, we'll see.
more
Like
than the gameplay.
Battlefield One trailer, I don't think has any gameplay in it.
That
S
with all the planes they're trying to shoot each other, that wasn't gameplay.
no, it's cinematic.
That was all cinematic. Okay,
Yeah.
well, regardless.
So I mean, and that's not to suggest that the gameplay will be poor, but I do think that's one of the things that unfortunately sets sets Call of Duty in a negative, right? Is that you're showing gameplay. Everybody's felt that gameplay, seen that gameplay. So um, we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. I hope they're both fantastic games. I hope they both do something for their respective audiences. But I do think that Battlefield's got an opportunity to pull itself out of the woodwork a little bit and have a chance to shine.
And speaking of venerable classics and everything coming out, I just saw the other day on TV an advertisement for Doom.
Yeah.
The new version revamped on that. So I know that wasn't on our schedule of things to talk, but I just came to mind. I remember seeing that. I mean, Doom goes back even further. It's like the original first-person shooter. I mean,
Doom costs the U.S. economy billions of dollars because people were installing it on their work computers and playing it instead of doing work. Like Doom cost a lot of money.
yeah. So, what's your thoughts on the fact that they're coming out with a brand new modernized version of that?
Well, it makes sense. The Doom franchise has always held a special spot in the hearts of people who want to frag the demons of hell and things of that nature.
Yeah.
Doom 3 came out for the PC back when I was I think it was probably my freshman year of college, and I remember like me and my roommate essentially blanket forted the room so that it would be super dark and played Doom 3 on our giant 17-inch CRT monitor. Um, but it was cool. It was scary. It was intense. Whatever. And I'm wondering what direction this new Doom is going to go. They did release codes for their multiplayer beta a few weeks ago, which I played a bit of, and it was entertaining, but I wasn't particularly. I didn't get a whole lot out of it. It was the most metal FPS I've ever played. Tons of death metal music and dark color palettes and things blowing up.
I'm looking at some of the gameplay here, and gore nailed it. They got lots of blood in there, and they definitely have some elements of demons and hell and all that stuff, all that jazz that you liked about the original Doom. But I gotta say, like when I first saw some of the characters, I was like, "Wow, is this just a reskin of Halo?" I mean, it's pretty similar.
Yeah, and apparently, I don't know. I'm reading a Kotaku article that says that they have decided not to send out early review copies, which some people say, oh, well, that must mean the game's not that good. But it's not, a lot of people do it, especially they did bring up in the article, when your game has a heavy focus on online multiplayer, dropping early review copies just kind of sets you up for trouble when people say it was hard to matchmake or, there was lag or whatever. Like, a lot of these things start to get fixed and tweaked day 1, day 2, day 3 of release.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, honestly, the unfortunate thing for Doom is that it's going to be coming out right around the same time as the other 3 games that we're going to talk about later, and those games are going to steal a lot of the show up until, I really think up until the fall.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and that's the good thing. I mean, if you're a gamer and this coming holiday season, I know I already have like about 6 games I want on my list. That's I may not play them right away, but I'm definitely going to buy them right away, and have them sitting by if I ever get bored. Past couple of years, sure, there's your Fallouts and your Witcher 3s and stuff like that, which are great, but I mean, this holiday season, there's a lot of great stuff coming out.
It's going to be really crazy. But I do think that there are some good opportunities before holiday season to be able to get some great gameplay in. I'm trying not to transition into another topic for fear of a commercial break.
Well, we have 2 minutes. No, you can start. You can transition, and then we'll just have to pause. That's all. That's not a big. All right.
So why don't we, since we're already, we're talking big budget games, we're talking shooters, why don't we just go ahead and jump into kind of the 3 elephants in the room, which are Paragon, Overwatch, and Battleborn.
All right.
Have you spent any time with? I'm guessing you've at least played some Overwatch, Ben.
Yeah, I well, yeah, for a little while there, I had it on ultra settings, ultra max, whatever high settings,
Sure.
and my computer actually crashed a couple times. So
No.
yeah,
Well,
but
you'll just have to pick up that new GTX 1080.
that thing looks amazing. But no, I turned the settings down, and yeah, I definitely put a couple hours into it, and really excited to talk about that. But the other two, Paragon, have actually, now that I look at the screenshots, I think I heard about it a little bit a couple months ago. But Paragon have not really done much with, and Battleborn have not done much with. So, but Overwatch, yeah, I can definitely speak to that.
Yeah. The all three of these games are giant AAA, first-person games, and they, well, not first-person, but they're all AAA titles. But all three of them are fairly different. I don't know why we keep kind of mentioning them together. Probably because they're released in the same time frame and they're from rather large companies. But all three of them have kind of different focuses. Paragon is a third-person MOBA, so in the same vein as Smite, which is EA's big MOBA title. In Paragon, you work with a team of 4 other players to attempt to destroy the enemy's base.
All right, I'll tell you what. And
yes.
and well, we're going to pause here for that, and then we'll continue on. It's our Gamer Tuesday show. Josh Boykin is here with us for both hours, and we're just starting to get into the big heavyweight multiplayer releases, Paragon, Overwatch, and Battleborn. If you're watching the screen, you can see the videos. Ben is demonstrating them right now. This is the Computer America show. News, tips, bulls, review coming up as well. We will be right back, I promise.
Sometimes, disaster strikes. Data can be lost due to many different reasons. Accidental reformatting, power spikes, virus attacks. Zero Assumption Recovery provides a suite of highly effective and thorough data recovery software for Windows operating systems. ZA is suitable for home users and small businesses who need a powerful data recovery solution for Windows and Linux file systems.
Go to z-a-recovery.com.
Sometimes, disaster strikes. Data can be lost due to many different reasons. Accidental reformatting, power spikes, virus attacks. Zero Assumption Recovery provides a suite of highly effective and thorough data recovery software for Windows operating systems. ZA is suitable for home users and small businesses who need a powerful data recovery solution for Windows and Linux file systems.
Go to z-a-recovery.com.
She was so fat, her bell bottoms were tight. Hi, Marty Winston with the News Tips Bulletin Review for Computer America. This time, the rigid 18-volt hyperdrive nailer. Now, you can spend whole months with your head inside a computer, but sooner or later, you'll need to be nailing something, and Rigid just made that a lot cooler. You have to connect most nail guns to an air compressor, but the new 18-volt rigid hyperdrive brushless brad nailer builds in its own compressor. It's surprisingly quiet. You can use a variety of nail lengths. You can select how deeply set you want the head of the nail. You can adjust the air pressure behind the tip. You can switch from one nail at a time to a nail every time you press in its tip, and more. So bottom line, the rigid 18-volt hyperdrive brushless brad nailer makes nailing simpler and speedier with less than the usual noise. Marty Winston, News Tips Bulletin for Computer America.
32 minutes after the hour here on the Computer America Show. Welcome back to the program. 347-884-8881 will get Johnny gets through. Josh Boykin is here, Computer America's gamer correspondent. Now, we're just getting into some of the 3 large titles that are making their way onto the gaming scene. But before we get back to that, I want you to remember one thing, and that's my first name, Craig. Now, why do I want you to remember that? Because that happens to be the promo code for Vistaprint, and they want me to tell you, that that they make business cards. They make the logos for the polo shirts. Actually, we use that at conventions when we send Ben out to them, like CES. He has on his polo shirt. That was all from Vistaprint. We've been using them for years, actually. They actually offer tons of custom products for homes and office needs, and Vistaprint absolutely guarantees you're going to love their products every time. In fact, they're going to give you 500 business cards for just $9.99, but only when you enter my promo code Craig at the checkout. Right? Just go to the website at vistaprint.com and you'll see how easy it is to design your own stuff using their web-based custom design service. It's so slick. Remember to use my promo code Craig and you'll save up to 50% over the regular pricing. Don't wait. Go to vistaprint.com and order today.
Well said, well said. And as Craig said, this was, I'm sorry, this still is the gaming show that we have here, Gamer Tuesday, with Josh Boykin. And thank you for joining us through the break. And now here on the other side, we are going to start talking about these 3 new games that are coming out soon. I think one thing that they all have in similar, at least Paragon, Overwatch, and Battleborn, I need to check, but they all have, Overwatch just finished their open beta last week, or yesterday, really. It was last week through yesterday. And, Paragon says here, get your early access now if you, pre-purchase the thing. And, early access is great. So, like, they all have, kind of, you can kind of play them now, but it's not really their full, fleshed-out, finished product. So, yeah, Josh, did you want to start with Paragon, Overwatch, or Battleborn?
Well, we'll start with Battleborn because one, it's the one I probably won't spend the most time on because it's the one I've spent the least time with, but also because it was the first one to do its full release. It's the only one that's out there sitting on shelves right now. Battleborn is it's a 2K shooter, so the same folks who brought you Borderlands, XCOM 2, which we talked about on recent shows.
Mm-hmm.
It's their franchise. It's a new franchise, brand new characters, and it's got. I guess to me, it feels the kind of medium cartoonish. It's a little bit more of a serious art style than Overwatch puts together, and definitely less serious than the art style in Paragon, which feels hyper realistic and is really showing off that Unreal Engine 4. The single player and the multiplayer are a little different in Battleborn. You've got a roster of, I believe, 24 characters. I was going to count them until... but yeah, so I believe you've got a roster of 24 characters, all with various abilities and roles. Let's see.
25.
25? All right.
25.
So we've got 25 different characters, all with various abilities and different costumes. There's a big focus on being able to access new costumes and customize how your character looks and that kind of thing. The single player campaign I haven't played through. It's been getting a sort of medium reviews. People say that it gets a little repetitive. There are some levels that apparently are just outright difficult. And if you can go through them with other players, so if you can do the campaign cooperatively with some other players, it starts to be a little more reasonable. The multiplayer is where Battleborn has really tried to step out of the norm a little bit. It does have 3 different gameplay modes that it offers for multiplayer. Let me see if I can find the names. Their third mode, which is Meltdown, kind of fuses some first-person shooter and MOBA elements. Unfortunately, it's one of the difficult things with MOBAs is that, and these are multi-online battle arenas or multiplayer online battle arenas. So games like League of Legends, Dota 2, Vainglory. These are games where it's kind of about an overarching strategy, and it is difficult to make that overarching strategy really pan out when you're stuck in a first-person camera. It is just a little more difficult to see the overarching concept of what's happening. That said, the multiplayer seems to be running fairly well. With Battleborn, you don't have access to all of your characters up front. You have to unlock some of them over time. So you have a lot to do as you continue playing. So It looks interesting. I will say that capture is going to be kind of your basic domination style gameplay. Um,
As an outside observer watching this, I see what you're saying. I mean, it has more of a cartoon feel. This is not photorealistic.
right.
You're watching like a well drawn or constructed, cartoon. No way would you mistake this for, the real thing, photorealism. It's a well done cartoon,
Yeah.
and I guess that's intentional, right? I mean, not everything has to be photorealistic.
Stylized, yeah.
Yeah,
Style.
absolutely. I mean, it almost feels like, I mean, sometimes I feel like I see like Gru from Despicable Me or something like that.
Yeah.
And I think that is, it is a style choice. 2K in general, or Gearbox, the company that, the specific arm that put out Battleborn, Borderlands, um, they're about creating an atmosphere for over the topness. And so it would make sense that they would create these sort of like hyperly large characters, and it says digital badass there across the corner.
Right.
And it's their style. They play to it. I think they play to it well. I'd love to spend some time with it to see how it compares. But I do think that probably the two things that I do feel are missed opportunities. Number one, they can't completely control, which is their release timeline. Um, Honestly, I think basically the entire a big portion of the world, the gaming world, stopped spinning when the Overwatch beta came out. So there's not a whole lot that you can do about that. The other part that I do have a lot more experience with is actually their mobile app. They released a game called Battleborn Tap for Android and iOS. It is part of a genre called what a lot of people call incremental or idle games. These are games that essentially you set them up, you walk away, you come back, and you have money and experience, which you invest into your characters, and then you walk away again.
Hmm.
If you can see the confused look on my face, it's because playing it is a little confusing, because I don't feel like I'm really playing a whole lot. Um, Essentially, imagine a turn-based RPG, right, where you have your party, and you would be able to click fight, and then your party attacks the enemies, and then your enemies attack you back, right?
Mhm.
In idle games, this happens automatically. So regardless of whether you're actively playing the game or not, the game is constantly processing that your characters are attacking the enemy is attacking you. When you clear a wave of enemies, a new wave of enemies show up. And as the game progresses, you get money, and then you're able to spend the money to upgrade your characters, who then are able to advance and to defeat further waves of monsters.
All right.
Simple.
Yeah, and but at the same time, like, to me, I just got to the point where I felt like I wasn't doing anything. And it's really interesting how I'm actually working on an article for IntelliGame about classical conditioning. For those who remember our psychology, or the psychology concept where it's like you have the Skinner box, right, where you have an animal and it's pressing a button, and the button sometimes dispenses food, and so you can convince the animal to press the button more often in hopes of getting food, not by actually providing them the food with every button press, but instead by making it inconsistent, which also explains why some people can't leave a casino.
Right.
Um, the interesting thing about Battleborn Tap is that it's a free to play game. So there are different, as you can have your characters automatically attack, you can also tap the screen for a little magical laser to show up and shoot the opponents, which gives you an incentive to actively have the game on. Also, your characters do more damage when you have the game on, but that's not the point.
Feel this like a disconnect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
No, go ahead.
Like you feel like there's more of a disconnect going on there, that you're not actively involved. You go and set everything up and then kind of go away. And,
Well, idle gaming is it's a big mobile genre. There are tons of games. I think Adventure Capitalist is an idle game, and it's one of the highest grossing Android games in a while.
Wow.
There's another game called Tap Adventure, which feels like exactly like Battleborn Tap. Um, that also is a very popular idle game franchise. My issue, I think, with Battleborn's connection is that there's no real connection to the full game. So the idea behind a companion app, in my opinion, should be that there's some sort of incentive for you to pick up the other thing, right?
Okay. Mhm.
And you don't, with the exception of like one particular character skin, it seems that you can unlock in Battleborn. There's no reason for you to play or advance in Battleborn Tap. And it seems to me like that would have been a perfect opportunity to convince some players who would have been interested in the franchise, who maybe are sitting around waiting for Paragon, waiting for Overwatch, if they knew that they were playing this free-to-play idle game and that they were unlocking new skins, unlocking new characters, getting more experience in Battleborn, maybe that would have convinced them to give it a shot.
Okay. All right. All right.
Oh,
So
and real quick, Battleborn PC?
PC, PC, PS4, Xbox One.
Okay.
okay.
But yeah, that's
All right.
those are the three. So, but you're right. We should move on to the other ones.
The Paragon, you mean in Overwatch?
Yeah. So Paragon and Overwatch, two very different games. For those who have played Team Fortress 2, you're gonna have a better understanding of what Overwatch is right off the bat. We're scrolling on screen for Paragon, so we'll talk. No, it's okay. We'll talk Paragon.
All right.
So Paragon's a 5v5 MOBA. As you can see, if you are watching our live stream, these characters do look, or are meant to look, realistic. This is a game that's really showing off the power of Unreal Engine 4, which got a lot of face time at GDC this year, as they revealed a lot of the tools and the new technology and lighting and things that are available to be shown off. Paragon is currently in its early access season. So for those who have paid, I believe it's the $20 for the Founders Pack, you can play the game between now and when it releases sometime in summer of 16. It also has had a couple of stress test weekends. So for those who signed up for the beta, you're able to play for a weekend and give all the characters a shot, that kind of thing. Now, the cool thing about Paragon is that they are really changing some of the basic mechanics that MOBAs have traditionally utilized to try and make money. Number one, we should point out that you have to pay to get into Paragon. It's not a free-to-play game. It'll release, I believe, at either $40 or $60, and that's how you get in. The trade-off, though, is that where in most games like League of Legends or Vainglory, where you're paying per character, all you have access to all of the characters right off the bat when you're playing Paragon. They're releasing, I believe, new characters every 3 weeks, and the only way that you are able to increase your abilities in game, so to speak, is by playing the game. Most MOBAs allow you to, over the course of a match, which in Paragon's case can take 45 minutes to an hour on average.
Wow.
In my experience, yeah, it's a long game. Over the course of a match, you'll kill, you attack and kill enemies and minions to get more experience. That experience allows you to level up. And usually you're collecting also some sort of money that you use to buy items to also make your character stronger in a particular way, whether you want to attack more frequently or have more defense or run faster, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
In Paragon, you, instead of having an entire store that you buy items from, you have a deck of cards that you create before the match begins. So you have special customized loadouts for each character. And when you decide to choose that character, you choose at the beginning of the match which deck you'd like to use. From there, you use the Amber, which is what they call their cash currency, or their in-game farm currency. You'll use Amber to get more card points, which you'll then use to activate the cards that you've brought in your deck to give you whatever. It's nice from the perspective that it narrows, it provides a focus. So you only have, instead of trying to process an entire laundry list of, 100 plus items to figure out what's best, you already have a customized strategy for your hero when you enter. My question is going to be counter building, which is basically if you're playing League of Legends, something like that, and you notice that your opponent wants to attack a bunch of times and is going to attack really fast, you might build up special, armor so that you are nullifying more of that damage. I feel like if you're pre-building a deck, I'm not sure how much flexibility you have to do that.
Right. When you're playing MOBAs, traditionally, it's some of the appeal is that even though you can have the same game with the same characters over and over and over again, depending on your customization during the actual match, during the actual 20 to 35 minutes that you're actually playing, Dota 2 or League of Legends, you can actually have some customization there, and same characters, same map, same everything, depending on your choices in gear and things that you purchase after the fact, really add to, hey, this is a whole different game. This is a different game. Whereas I'm afraid that if you have something like cards, people are going to say this is the best card to bring. These are the best cards to bring. And these are the best ones to bring in terms of defense, in terms of utility, in terms of offensive power. Like when you only give them only give the ability to customize, before the game, you don't really allow for variability. And when that happens, you end up with this is de facto the best, and that's not good for MOBAs.
Now, I do think that it is probably worth pointing out, like, even though you have certain cards, I mean, those cards do correspond to what would be items in any other MOBA. So even though you may not have as much flexibility to choose from the entire roster, I actually am going to have a couple questions out to some folks on the community management for Epic to get some clarification. Because I have just been playing those stress test weekends, and I do want to have a better understanding. There still is that entire idea of, like, yes, these cards are better than these other cards, but you still are going to be managing. Okay, well, maybe I bring in a bunch of smaller cards because then it doesn't require as much amber, as many card points to get them active. So it allows me to build faster, even though I won't build with these massive power buffs. Each card that you equip requires a different number of what they call card points. So there are ones that are only 1 point or 2 points and will provide minor buffs for your heroes. There are ones that are 6 and 7 points and will give you like massive life steal and all this different stuff. So there is still an element of management, and I do feel that, especially considering the variety of characters, I doubt that we will see a best card or a best deck in a way that we wouldn't see a best recommended build in League of Legends or Dota or Vainglory. Yeah, it'll work in some situations, but in other situations, you still have to think with your head.
Okay.
And that is the cool thing about Paragon, is that it's a third-person MOBA. So in the same way that Smite, has that over-the-shoulder camera, so does Paragon, and it feels a lot more intense than many of the other MOBAs I've played. It does bring in elevation, so you do have like areas of high ground and low ground, which is really great when you like run up a hill and your enemy forgets that you're there, and then you just like drop your super big laser right on top of them, which I did once, and then I laughed for like 30 seconds. It was a great feeling. Anyway, I really enjoy Paragon as somebody who really is falling more into the MOBA genre and still spends a decent amount of time with Vainglory and the occasional amount of time with League of Legends. The cool thing about Paragon is that it is gorgeous and immersive. When you're in the jungle, which is the the area where you typically will roam around and attack monsters to get health or to get experience individually, it looks like a big like jungly forest thing.
Right.
And
looks very realistic. It looks very realistic.
Yeah. Um, and yeah, even I've played it on PS4 and PC both, and I just can't get over that. I'm just like, wow, this looks really good.
Mhm.
They're attempting to build a community. They've already got, kind of built into Paragon this Paragon TV where you can watch other matches. I think that they really are trying to create a community that will leverage this idea of wanting the game to be streamed, wanting people to shoutcast it, wanting to create
Yeah.
this energy around, creating a league and all those kinds of things.
That's definitely one thing that League of Legends and Dota have definitely kind of set themselves apart in the mobile area, is that when it comes time for competition. I mean, I think MSI was just held for League of Legends, and even though it was held at our time about 1 a.m. to about 7 a.m. I mean, there were still 300,000 people watching it on Twitch
Wow.
alone. Yeah, and that's not even counting the rebroadcast at a more reasonable time because they were held in, I want to say, Korea.
Yeah.
They're held in Korea. So I mean, like, and Dota has, whenever they have competitions, they have numbers in the 2, 3, 400,000 people as well. I mean, being able to shoutcast and have tournaments and just the competitive scene around it really does set League of Legends and Dota apart. So I can see why Paragon is trying to embrace that, and if they can make this competitive, that's going to be huge.
Absolutely. My hope, is that these 45-minute matches were happening because I was playing around other people who didn't particularly know what they were doing. There's not a lot of coordination. You're fighting against bots that don't always know what they're doing.
Mhm.
Because 45 minutes to an hour is a long time, particularly when, Paragon is releasing on PS4 and PC. So PC gamers may be used to spending an hour on a match playing StarCraft, playing League of Legends, playing Dota. Playing an hour for a single match on a console feels weird.
Yeah.
So I'm
I
interested
would
in,
say about 15 minutes is probably the most that people are used to in terms of multiplayer.
yeah, and that's over the course of a match where like maybe in Call of Duty, you're playing 10, 15 minutes a match. You're dying a bunch of times, you're respawning, you're changing your loadouts, all those different things.
Yeah.
Whereas in Paragon, you've got this, you're running the same character. You're just, you're making changes to your strategy. And it definitely is going to be the kind of game that shines when you're playing with teammates who you can talk to. Um, because the ability to coordinate is key. Just like like I had brought up before with Battleborn, when you're in that first person view, it's hard to have that like overarching look at what's going on. And that third person over the shoulder view also, it incentivizes you to coordinate with other folks.
Mhm.
I would be interested in seeing where where they decide to focus. I do think that both. I think League of Legends. I don't know if Dota did, but I know League of Legends for a while was working on restructuring and reformatting some of their things so that the matches would go faster, because people had complained. I was in a 90-minute Dota 2 match once, and I
Wow.
was just like, I can't do this again. Like I have barely
I've
been back to Dota 2
I,
because I did not spend 90 minutes on one game.
I've been there with League of Legends, 80 minutes, and when the normal game is about, I would say 40, and and you're in there for 80 minutes. I mean, they definitely start doing some stuff, like the NPCs start getting more and more powerful, so that it's technically impossible for you to not win or lose at this point. Like
Right.
something's gonna happen. Like they have ways of unsticking that situation, but sometimes it gets bad.
Oh yeah. It'll be. I don't know, but Paragon. Of the three, I have to say Paragon is my personal favorite. I think it is. I mean, it's a gorgeous game. I think it's taking some really interesting risks in the genre. It does have and I love its monetary system. They're trying to make money off of skins and what they call master challenges, which provide you experience boosts and things based on whether or not you purchase them for a particular character. But you have access to the entire roster once you start playing the game. So this isn't a question of of, oh, well, this new hero came out and I've got to pay another $10.
Right.
You can play whoever you want to and figure out who works best for you instead of waiting for the free hero rotation like most games.
That is the problem with that League of Legends is running into right now, where they have, I think they're up to like 120 characters, maybe like 118 or something like that. But someone did the math, and if you just played, just free-to-play model, just played and tried to earn the currency through regular gameplay, it would take you like over a year of almost straight playing to get all of the champions. Like, it is ridiculous. Like 8 hours a day, 365 days, it will take you over a year to get the game if you just played, through the free-to-play system. So when it gets too bloated like that, it can get troublesome. But Paragon, obviously, they're trying to tackle this before it becomes a problem.
Right.
Exactly. Okay, so that's our three. By the way,
well, actually, no, we didn't cover, and we'll come back to it.
Overwatch.
Overwatch.
Yeah. By the way, we're having if you were trying to call on the show, we had a little technical difficulty. Please try calling back again. We think we have it hammered out now. Again, 347-884-8881 will get you on and get you through, and we'd love to hear from you. Okay, so again, we're going to be talking about Overwatch, and also we want to talk about the new PlayStation 4.5. Another thing I want to mention a little bit about is we're seeing more of these games now coming to mainstream TV networks. I mean, I just was watching TBS the other day, and they're advertising games, electronic gaming on TBS, and so we'll talk a little bit about that. What your thoughts are on there as well, and then of course we're going to talk a little bit about the NX, Nintendo's new console. What the story is with that. Anyway, in the meantime, we're going to take a short break, just top of the hour break. 347-884-8881 will get you on and get you through. You're listening to the Computer America Show. Josh Boykin, Associate Editor for PopZera, Senior Editor for GotGame.com, and the founder of the game culture Intelligame.us. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Broadcasting live. It's the only national radio talk show on computers to air every weeknight. Computer America. Hosted by national columnist Craig Crossman. The first hour's behind us, but there's still more of tech news, tech talk, and your phone calls. We're being beamed nationwide at ComputerAmerica.com. You got computer problems? Bring them on. You're listening to Computer America. Computers run the world, and we run computers. Call us or send us an email to live@computeramerica.com.
Hello and welcome into Hour 2 of the nation's longest-running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers. This is the Computer America Show, and I am your host, Craig Crossman.
And I'm your co-host, Ben.
And we continue on with Josh Boykin. He is here with us for both hours. Josh is our gamer correspondent, associate editor for PopZera.com. He's a senior editor for GotGame.com, the founder of the game culture and criticism site Intelligame.us, and we were just finishing up with the Paragon and Battleborn. There are three of the big heavyweight multiplayer releases. We're going to get into Overwatch. Again, we'd love to hear from you. 347-884-8881. We had a little technical difficulty, but I think that's all set up now. So if you call, we will be able to get to your phone calls. 347-884-8881 will get you on and get you through. So let's continue on and to talk a little bit about Overwatch, Josh, which is the third big game.
I feel like you didn't say that right. It's called Overwatch. Dun 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 dun. Thank you.
Overwatch.
There you go.
There you go.
There you go. Okay.
Proper fanfare. Thank you. That's all we asked for. A little showmanship.
Well, and I mean, and to be fair, I mean, like it's all Overwatch is about. It's about fanfare. It's about atmosphere. Like it looks like a Pixar movie. I guess a very violent Pixar movie then. But Overwatch plays like Team Fortress 2. So the idea, these are 6-on-6. I don't know if Team Fortress 2 is 6-on-6, but the Overwatch is made up of 6-on-6 multiplayer matches. Each match has a slightly different objective. Over the course of the beta, there were a couple of different gameplay modes. One of them would be, one team is on attack and the other team is on defense, and you would either have to attack or defend a particular objective. There also were capture places where you would spawn onto a map, and the first team to control whatever the objective zone was for a certain amount of time would win. Overwatch is, I will admit, when I first started playing the beta, I wasn't particularly wowed. Everybody seemed to be really into it, and I was like, yeah, I could play it, but it's not a big deal. But the more I spent time with it, the more I really enjoyed it. Overwatch, unlike a lot of shooters where you choose your one character, you kind of customize your loadout, or like let's say you're playing Call of Duty, you've got your one basic character and you change which weapons you're bringing in. Overwatch, you have access to the entire, I believe, 24-player roster over the course of the entire game.
Yep.
Each character has a very different gameplay style and different roles for the team. So whereas the character we're looking at right now, Junkrat, throws these grenades. He's also one of the most obnoxious.
I know,
characters in the
right?
game.
I don't like him at all.
I hate Junkrat. I hate him so much.
Why? Why do you hate him? Okay,
So
why?
He's oppressive to play against.
So basically what he has a small range grenade launcher. For anybody who played the original Call of Duty Modern Warfare,
No, the noob tube.
the noob tube, that's his weapon. So basically, he can do large amounts of area damage in relatively quick bursts, and it's just obnoxious. It's not. I'm not going to say the character's broken. I'm not raging about it. I just get really frustrated when I know that there is a Junkrat out there.
Okay.
But the cool thing though is that all of these characters feel very different and have different sets of skills. So the more that you play with all of these different characters, the game isn't about just running in and necessarily being the best shot. It's about using the correct characters for the correct situation, because each one serves a different purpose. The one that we're looking at right now, Lucio, is a support character. So his whole purpose is to make the rest of the team better, whether he's healing them, giving them speed buffs. He can do some damage too, but primarily he's a support. You've got characters like Diva, who are tank characters. She's got a giant walking mech that can take a bunch of damage and is powerful, but then she can also get out of the mech. She can also set the mech to self-destruct. Oh, May is my favorite character.
Me too, right? Varia and Nivea, like that I'm a fan of it. But yeah, no, all these characters they each fill a definite niche, and inside that niche, like the developers were very, very vocal early on that yes, have your favorite character, play your favorite character, have your comfort pick. But at the end of the day, certain characters are going to outperform others in certain situations. So they knew that going through a single match, you may change your character 5, 6, 7, 8 times to better suit the team you're up against.
Right. And the cinematics that they're showing right now, if you're watching our live stream, are all representations of actual abilities that these characters have.
Oh, this is all gameplay.
Yeah, like I think some of those in between are cinematic, but like they are showing actual gameplays. So creating a giant ice wall to block incoming attacks, or deflecting a shot to kill an opponent. Like these are all things that you instinctively learn how to do with each of these characters. So when you're playing on a team, it really becomes about like adapting to the situation. If you're attacking a point, do you want to use a character who's going to be a sniper, hang out in the back, and support the rest of the team? To me, it's a very different style of gameplay. It's fast-paced. Matches tend to run anywhere between they can go anywhere between 5 minutes and 20 minutes, based on the objective and based on who you're playing. And all the characters do feel fresh, unique, and useful. I haven't encountered a character yet where I'm just like, yeah, I can't imagine ever wanting to use this character.
But you don't like Junkrat.
I dislike Junkrat.
But you can play him.
I will not play Junkrat.
But you
could. I should.
Right.
There's a character in Vainglory. Who is it? Cruel, who I have this problem where when I dislike a character personally, I don't play them, and then I never learn what their weaknesses are, and so then it's a self-perpetuating cycle. I need to learn to get into the head of my enemies.
Yeah. Well, I mean, why does a character rub you the wrong way? I mean, this is interesting. What did they do to?
Like, what did they do to you, Josh?
Yeah, what did they
did
do to
ever
elicit
to
this
you?
response? That's interesting.
So, I mean, part of it is gameplay style. So Junkrat is again a character who can do a bunch of widespread damage. Has a few attacks that, to me, like when I get hit by them, I'm just like, well, that felt cheap. And I think maybe it's so now we have to watch the entire Junkrat video. Thanks.
Oh, of course we do.
Um,
Of course we do.
So, it feels just like, he's launching frag grenades at a relatively quick rate, which do a pretty good amount of damage. You can be on one side of a map, and it's not that far, but like you can be kind of nearby and then, launch the concussion grenade over a ledge and you never see anybody and they never see you and then they just die. The
Right,
concussion,
and
it's just, I don't know, in the
of-
same way that sometimes you just don't like people.
Right. A lot about characters like Junkrat. Like I honestly think that one thing about this whole thing, Paragon and Overwatch and all these games, there's definitely there's a strong importance on balance and making sure that because if one person is overrepresented, then it just throws off the whole thing. And constant balance is obviously something Blizzard, having going all the way back to StarCraft 1, Diablo 2, Diablo 1, that competitively they know the importance of balance. And honestly, someone like Junkrat, there's so little you can do to play to counterplay against him that I think Junkrat's going to be altered in some way.
Hmm.
So it's definitely coming because he has so little counterplay. It's not fun to play against him at all.
Right.
So yeah,
And
but it's just little things like that.
it's also worth noting that, unlike in most MOBAs where you can only have one particular character of something on a team, in Overwatch you can have a team of 2 or 3 or 6 Junkrats. Like everybody could
I've
just
seen it.
Junkrat, and it will not necessarily play to that character to that team's advantage, because there are a lot of things then that you're not capable of. One of the cool things about Overwatch is that they really encourage team balance. Each character has a different role. Some of your characters are meant to be tanks to go up and absorb a lot of damage. Some characters are meant to be assault to run in and deal damage. Some characters are meant to be builders where they create gun turrets and things like that, so that they can do damage on the fly. And the game, as you're choosing your character, it'll say like, hey, you don't have any support heroes on your team. So maybe when you choose your character, you're like, oh, okay, well, wait a second, maybe I should pick Mercy, the angel healing character, instead. It's interesting, and you've had Corey on the show a few times. Corey and I played this a bit over the weekend, and he was saying it's interesting that the game is basically it's basically made to not let you get angry. People
Right.
will still rage, I can guarantee that, but there are a lot of ways the game is composed to try and prevent people from feeling like they're really being like screwed over. Being able to change to any of the characters anytime that you respawn means that if your opponents are coming up with a strategy that's really frustrating, you can probably come up with something to counter it. The matches run relatively quickly, so they, over anywhere between 5 and 20 minutes, that's not really long enough to be like super raged. And then even the way that they wrap up the game at the end, where they say the number of eliminations you've had, but they don't say the number of times you've died. So that instinctive draw to come up with your kill-death ratio, your KDR, I don't know, they make all these little tweaks to try and emphasize the fun, the fast-paced, the randomness, And I'm sure it'll get competitive. I'm sure this is going to get a lot of playtime on Twitch. It already has, even just
Right.
um, and the videos are going to be a big thing too. There's
Well,
actually a showing at a theater near me where they're going to show all of the cinematics and give away Overwatch gear and stuff like that. Like they are working to build this hype train up huge.
yeah, and one thing I really like about the whole, don't make you angry kind of deal is that at the end where, normally, every like most other games, like, here are the stats, here's the breakdown, here's how you did, blah blah blah, and either it was evaluated by a computer against, statistically you are in this, kind of criteria, but at least in Overwatch, admittedly, you have to do something impressive. You have to, be a high majority of the damage. You have to, heal a lot. You have to build a lot of, structures. You have to do a lot of something. You have to do well in something, and then it lets everyone in the entire game, friend, foe, doesn't matter, vote on who did the best. So, like,
Right.
let's say there's someone on the other team who was just going off, just doing crazy things and doing really, really well. You could then vote for them to get, accolades. That, and if all 12 people vote for that same person, then that's really impressive. So, like, it's at the end of the game, you're kind of like, yeah, we all played against each other, but even if you lost, but you think someone still did really, really well, you can still, kind of give them a nod and say, this person did well, even if they were on the enemy team,
Right.
which is nice.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think.
And I think the last thing I want to say about Overwatch is that it's going to be a great game all by itself. $50. It's coming out soon. They just, as I said, they just finished up the open beta this past week, and obviously the launch date. I think it's like 23rd of May or something like that. It's something close to that. $50. It'll get you in PlayStation, I believe, Xbox, and PC.
Yep.
So I'll probably be buying this for Xbox, but for PC, it's great as well. And I got to say, this is again made by Blizzard. So, Blizzard Activision, they are great with attention stuff, and they are great at building franchises. And honestly, this is one that looks like they're gonna, it's gonna have the game built around it, but it's also going to be about the characters, and it's going to be about the movies, and it looks like they're building a bigger franchise than just this game.
Yeah.
Okay, good enough. So basically, one of our listeners, Starforce, had a question for.
I was just about to bring that up.
You saw it? Okay.
Uh-huh.
He said he'd like to see games that don't need a Core i7 5820 and GTX 980 graphics card. He says anything for us on the trailing edge, like an i7 870 HD 5770.
Yeah. I tell you what. Why don't we transition out into our topic on interactive fiction?
All right.
If that seems like a perfect opportunity.
Sure. Go for it.
One of my focuses in IntelliGame is to provide a spotlight, an opportunity for folks to see games and to learn about games that they might not have heard about otherwise, particularly ones that give us some sort of intellectual or story-based focus. So a lot of interactive fiction has been coming across my desk, so to speak. Very small desk at this point, but either way. I did manage to get my hands on 3 games that I really enjoyed over the past month that I did want to talk about. The first one is one that I think we maybe talked a little bit about. It's called Firewatch. Firewatch is a game that's it looks gorgeous, but will run on mid-range spec computers. Firewatch takes place in 1989. You play a guy named Henry who takes a job as a fire lookout in Shoshone National Forest in Wyoming. It is what they call on Steam a walking simulator. So you're not shooting anybody. There aren't really explosions. This is all about story and atmosphere and mood. As you can see, again, it also kind of has that Pixar-ish art style, but it is a absolutely gorgeous game as you're wandering through the forest, working as this fire watcher, fire lookout. I never found the turtle. Anyway, so over the course of the game,
Well, you say Pixar, but I mean, Team Fortress 2 kind of cel-shaded kind of deal, and Walking Dead almost kind of feel. It definitely not as graphically intensive.
yeah, Walking Dead tends to be a little more, I guess, darker in its cell shading, whereas Firewatch tends to have these lighter tones. I was amazed at the number of times I wanted to take screenshots, just to I mean they make amazing wallpapers. As you play as Henry. You're constantly in contact with your supervisor Delilah via walkie-talkie, and the it's hard to know exactly what to talk about Firewatch. Their marketing really meant to leave most of it in mystery. The story itself does revolve around Henry trying to resolve, or in some ways run from some of the issues that he's come from. And they, again, kind of make a point to not talk about a number of those things. The game is really about not only discovering bits and pieces of Henry's past, but also the other people who are in the forest. There are a couple, I guess, sort of mysteries that arise, and as you go through and try to discover what's happening in the forest, you're also kind of trying to discover how to take care of this issue that's burning inside of yourself. I thought it's a shorter game, 3 to 4 hours, I'd say, would give you plenty of time. You can burn right through it if you want to and go straight from objective to objective, but I was amazed at how much time I wanted to spend just wandering through the forest.
It's beautiful. I'm looking at the renderings now, and it's just very peaceful, very almost ethereal. And it just
Did you say burn through the game?
Yeah.
Oh, I
Oh.
didn't realize I was such a great.
The puns.
I'm a poet, and I had no idea. But yeah, no, I really enjoyed Firewatch. It also is 1999, which is really cool. I was disappointed to know that there's no physical release because I would love to have an actual disc of this.
No, this works on Mac. It looks like it works on Mac as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it does for Mac owners out there. I really was impressed. The voice acting is absolutely superb. They did great casting. The story has a couple twists in it that.
Well, is it a puzzle-based game? Sort of like you have to solve puzzles, or
no, it's really not. It's not even. It's more. I would liken it more to a choose-your-own-adventure book, in the sense that interactive fiction is not always about solving a mystery or whatever, but making a choice and seeing how that choice then affects the rest of the game. There aren't like a bunch of branching narratives, that kind of thing, but the ways that you interact with Delilah based on your dialogue options can really kind of shape the overall tone and feeling of what's happening in the game. That would be a little more what I would liken it to.
So yeah, it kind of is like The Walking Dead. Not, I mean, art style we kind of covered, but The Walking Dead, the whole thing about that was, yeah, it had some fast twitch stuff, and it had this and that, but at the end of the day, the Walking Dead, the game, was about your relationship with others, what you choose to say, what you choose to do, and how you choose to act, and of course that's going to have consequences, further down in the story. So
absolutely.
So yeah, so same thing.
I will say, without giving away too much, there is a different focus, in my opinion, where The Walking Dead, it still feels more game focused. You really want to have the feeling that, the decisions that you make by the end of episode 1 are going to ripple through the rest of the game. Firewatch isn't as. I felt like Firewatch's focus was not in providing me player agency. It wasn't about making sure that I know that by the end of the game, whatever ending I got was the result of my actions, and I should go through it again to find the other endings. It was more about giving me an opportunity to experience, a story and experience through somebody else's eyes. This is, in my opinion, it was absolutely great. I really enjoyed it. Some people won't be happy with the ending.
Everybody died?
There's there's actually an article I recently wrote up on Intelligame about um, the ways that Firewatch really, it feels like one of the most realistic games I've played in a long time, because it doesn't have this over the top, you're the hero, these are the way you change things experience. It really is grounded in what feels like,
Real life.
these are the things that I would be capable of if I was actually a fire lookout in 1989 with no cell phone and no whatever.
Okay,
So,
very cool.
I would check that out, Star Fortress, if you haven't already. I think it's a really awesome game. If you're looking for something with a little more action, that is still lower on the specs end, I'll dig up a couple and tweet them at you later.
Hey, and there's always solitaire.
Yeah, it's free since we've had computers.
Exactly.
And
Okay.
again, no spoilers for Firewatch, but I'm pretty sure at the end the whole forest burns down and it just slow fades into the movie Bambi, and and it just finishes it out.
Oh, that is heartbreaking.
Mm.
A couple quick ones while we're here. These are actually mobile titles. The first one is available on both iOS and Android. It's a game called Black Bar. This game is actually, it's narrative fiction, but it is a puzzle game. Basically, you have a series of letters that are provided to you. This is in a future situation where a overbearing government has decided to sanitize all of our communication.
Mhm.
And you see that in these letters, certain pieces have been redacted. So in order for you to move on to the next letter, you have to figure out what the redacted portions are. So as you can see in this first screenshot, you can read the letter and you kind of get the sentence through the last sentence where she says, all my messages have to go through the Department of Communication first, so some of my writing may be blank. And so you type the word, which, sorry, spoiler alert for the first puzzle, the answer is redacted. So you type redacted in the box, and that allows you to get to the next letter. The puzzles start off fairly simple and fairly intuitive, but they do get complex. You also get this story that kind of takes some twists and turns as Kenty, there's this correspondence going on between Kenty and apparently you are Vi. As Kenty is like discovering her dissatisfaction with this government that keeps redacting and sanitizing her letters. It's a really interesting story. It's really well written. Out here in Portland, the two developers, Nevin Morgan and James Moore, did a post-mortem on this game just a couple of weeks ago, so it was really interesting to learn more about the development process.
It's called Black Bar, is what it's
Black
called?
Bar, yep, and this is available on iOS. There also is an Android port, so for those of you who are Android folks, Black Bar is available to you. And it's $3. It's challenging, so I mean, most people shouldn't expect to breeze through it. I haven't. That doesn't, and I'm not some sort of wordplay genius, but it does get challenging. It's really interesting, and I'm sure you can look up a walkthrough if you want to, but I have found a lot more entertainment in trying to kind of brute force my way through the puzzles, and then I'm like, all right, forget it. I take a couple days off, you come back, and you're like, wow, how did I not think that was the answer? You know how that happens sometimes?
There is that segment of the population that really does enjoy crossword puzzles. They enjoy fill in the blank. They enjoy this. They enjoy that. And the gaming community in general is the next hottest thing to be the next Bejeweled or the next Angry Birds or the next graphics here. And I know it's not as intensive, and I don't think I'm ever going to watch someone on Twitch play Black Bar. But there are some people who just really like to sit down for a couple minutes and do word games.
Well, yeah, the thing about it, what I appreciate about Black Bar, and then its follow-up game, Grey Out, which is the other game I was going to mention. The thing about those games is that we have, in my opinion, a gaming populace that is huge, right? People are carrying around gaming devices in their pockets every day, and I think that people, I swear every time I go to a gaming event or I talk to people and I tell them about IntelliGame and what I talk, they're like, oh, well, yeah, I don't really do video games, or I'm not really into video games. And they're really under the impression that games are just shooters and sports games and Uncharted and fast reflexes and explosions. And like, yeah, that's a lot of gaming and it's a cool part of gaming. But so is this. So is interactive fiction. So is Nico Atsume, which is a game where people like have essentially like a cat farm, I guess, on the phone. It's like a Tamagotchi.
Yeah.
Like all of these things are potential opportunities that people could get into to find out that like, oh, wait a second, gaming is for me. Like just not gaming isn't what I thought it was. And like that's where games like Black Bar, like Firewatch, like Greyout, to me are very important because they reach out to a portion of the populace that I don't think AAA is really reaching out to. And because independent developers can take those risks, in fact, Nevin Morgan and James Moore talked about how, they wanted to work on a project that was more independent and they expected to sell like maybe 300 copies, I think. And Black Bar was huge when it released because it also came out around the same time that the WikiLeaks was happening with and so this idea of government surveillance and all this stuff. So it just happened to drop at the right time and the sales like exploded, and they're still making a few consistent sales on it over time. But there is this element of like they went through a process to develop this game that they knew was something that they just wanted to do for them. And then it turned out there were a lot of people who were really interested in the idea. I love seeing games like this and would love to see more of them. So
Exactly.
that's why I talk about them.
All right. Well, we're at the bottom of the hour. We got about a half hour left. We're going to try to talk a little bit about the NX as well and some of the board games that are out there. We're talking to Josh Boykin. He is our gamer correspondent. We're going to take a break, and then we'll continue on with him. You listen to the Computer America Show, 347-884-8881. We'll be right back. Hi, this is Craig Crossman, host of the Computer America Show. Long before Vistaprint asked me to tell you about them, my wife and I have been using Vistaprint for years, making business cards, having the Computer America logo placed on the polo shirts we use at conventions like CES, even printing a business card for our personal lives with our home address and phone number. In fact, Vistaprint offers tons of custom products for home and office needs, and Vistaprint absolutely guarantees you'll love their products every time, or they will make it right. In fact, they'll give you 500 business cards for just $9.99 when you enter my promo code Craig at checkout. Just go to their website at www.vistaprint.com and see how easy it is to design your own stuff using their web-based custom design service. Remember to use my code Craig and save up to 50% over their regular pricing. So don't wait. Go to vistaprint.com and order today. Looking for a best friend? Brother Wolf Animal Rescue has your best friend waiting just for you. The mission of Brother Wolf Animal Rescue is to help build a sustainable, no-kill community where no dogs or cats are ever killed for population control, where true euthanasia is reserved only for animals who are irremediably suffering, or for animals who are truly a threat to society and with no hope of rehabilitation. Brother Wolf's staff and volunteers go door to door, neighborhood by neighborhood, to educate citizens about local resources available for at-risk pets and to help their families connect with those resources. Brother Wolf's community-based approach to no-kill helps keep family pets healthy, happy, and in their homes and out of the local shelter system in the first place. For more information or to make a tax-deductible donation to this wonderful 501c3 organization, visit their website at www.bwar.org. Help to realize Brother Wolf's vision when no animal is euthanized for lack of a home.
Who's a good boy?
Hey, when I order a scotch, I'm not asking for tape. I'm Marty Winston with a News Tips Bulletin Review for Computer America. This time, mantle mount. Think about the dual arms of a pantograph, and you have a fair idea of how a mantle mount on the wall lets a 48 to 80-inch really big screen TV come forward and down. So if, for example, having the set on the wall over the fireplace places it just too high, this lets you swing it away from the wall by as much as 15 inches as you bring it down by as much as 24 inches. If you have a mantle, this dodges it. You can also swivel it somewhat so people in favorite chairs can face the screen square on. Bottom line, on any wall at all, even where there's a fireplace mantle, a mantle mount can bring an uppity TV down to more of an eye level. Marty Winston, News Tips Bulletin for Computer America.
Welcome back to the Computer America Show. Yes, 33 minutes past the hour, and we are here with Josh Boykin, who is our Computer America gaming correspondent. As as we go on about video games, and we have kind of branched off to a small subset of video games, which is, as Josh pointed out, they are, essentially story-based games and games that are very much, centered around, here's your experience that you can have through this game, play through it, not more, be competitive in this game or anything else. It's a game for the experience's sake, and I think that's, a genre that is kind of being left behind in favor for how's the actual gameplay, how are the graphics, how are the, how is the competitive scene, and, obviously that gets a lot of fanfare, but the other side of the coin, not as much. So, did we ever really get to Greyat, or were we just describing Black Bar?
I just want to understand. So Black Bar, basically, there are no graphics. It's just text. You're reading through it, and you have to come up with the redacted and figure it out. And that's the challenge. There's no graphics involved with that. Is it the same thing with Greyat? Basically, they're just text.
Right. So Greyout's more focused on finding the words that compose the responses to the individual letters. Most people say that, and I haven't played Greyout yet. Most people say that they find Greyout significantly more challenging than Black Bar. They use kind of different parts of the mind to figure out what you're compiling. But there are no animated cutscenes. There's no. In fact, though there is a soundtrack in Greyout, there is no soundtrack in Black Bar. And Nevin and James said that if they had an opportunity, they probably would go back and create a soundtrack or have a soundtrack created for Black Bar. But
late.
But that's the thing. The focus on these games is not to provide some sort of AAA or even what I would call a typical gaming experience. In the same way that reading a book, trips triggers that you don't get from watching a movie or, watching a TV show. This style of gaming to me is it pulls in a different piece of what excites me to be a gamer.
Would this appeal to, let's say, people who love, as you mentioned, crossword puzzles, Scrabble, word games, that type of thing?
Sure. I think, it definitely, people who are puzzlers, people who like word puzzles, this is definitely that style of game.
Okay.
But I also feel like there are puzzle games out there, people who play who used to like Island of Dr. Brain, or other, kind of logic analytical puzzles that these are the kinds of games that could really do something for them.
Okay. All right. So we have less than half an hour. Do we want to do the board games? You want to talk about the NX?
I will streamline my board games and talk about I'll talk about one. I'll do that because I do want to make sure we get to the NX as well. But there is a game that's actually it's a local game out of here in Portland. I've been lucky to have a lot of time learning about new board games. I like board games because they one, don't require a Core i7 and a crazy graphics card. But two, they give you an opportunity to interact with folks around you, directly around you, as opposed to interacting with them through a screen, which I enjoy, but don't want to do all the time, right?
Right.
So there's a new game that actually is on Kickstarter right now I met one of the developers of the game while I was on a plane, I believe, to GDC.
All
And
right.
so the game is called Soul, Legacy or Last Days of a Star. And basically, it's 2 to 5 players. The story is that you're each kind of the heads of a civilization that is in orbit around a star and using the star to harvest all your energy, and everything is very peaceful and life is great. But then you find out that the star is about to go nova.
Oh, that'll be
So,
done.
yeah, which kind of brings a damper on the day. So, basically, so each player is attempting to create different structures around the sun in orbit to be able to harvest energy from the sun, so that they can power power the ship that is going to carry the last remnants of their portion of civilization to freedom,
Oh.
while unfortunately everybody else will not. So the interesting thing about the game, I have really enjoyed the mechanics. They worked. Jody and Ryan worked on the game for. Jody, Ryan, and Ryan's brother, Sean. Yes. So Ryan and Sean and Jody worked on the game for, I want to say, 2 years, putting this together and trying to figure out the story and the idea, and the mechanics before they brought the game to Kickstarter. I am typically not somebody who gets super hyped on Kickstarter projects, but the cool thing about the way the board game community has evolved in Kickstarter is that more often than not, like, you've already gotten to the point where prototypes exist, physical copies have been sent out to people, and you've already gotten some semblance of quality feedback before actually going for the Kickstarter. So there tends to be, or in my experience, less vaporware in board games than there is in video games. One of the other cool things about Soul is that its atmosphere is different. It's kind of a darker, deeper story or whatever.
Oh,
and
really? It gets dark when the sun
when the
explodes
sun,
and kills
actually,
a
it would get
majority
really
of players.
bright. It gets really bright,
Uh,
and then it's not. um, yeah, the cool thing about Soul, it plays anywhere between 45 and 90 minutes. You play on essentially a circular board. Each of you has a mothership that orbits around the sun, and you send out small ships from your mothership to go and create these structures to harvest energy from the sun. There are different abilities that you can bring into play over the course of the game, to either enhance your own structures, to provide yourself abilities, because as you're harvesting this energy from the sun to power your getaway, you're also increasing the instability of the sun. So you're basically pushing it that much closer to explosion.
Huh.
It's I guess the interesting thing about it is that it really does provide what feels very video game-esque in this ability to kind of like customize your strategy, to interact directly with other players, all of the different pieces that are able to be customized. But at the same time, it's an in-person experience, and I have found that a lot of my friends who are video gamers are starting to spend more time playing board games because I think there is that desire to have an off-screen experience, particularly with people you're close to. I was playing Overwatch with my friend Kenji. I told you I was playing it with Corey, and that's cool. But it's different to have somebody like right in front of you and like eat snacks together and listen to music and whatever. So it looks like a complex game. It's a what's called a low luck game, but it's also very approachable. You get through a couple rounds and you're like, oh, I kind of see what's going on. It's got a lot of replayability, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how the Kickstarter campaign turns out. It's got, I think, another 20-some days left, but
right.
But yeah, that's the board game I would push people towards. I keep talking about it because I really
All right.
enjoyed it.
Good. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about NX.
Yeah. So the NX is, I mean, we can. It's just Nintendo has decided, they're not showing the NX, or at least they're not making a big showing for the NX at E3. Their E3 presser is going to predominantly revolve around their new Legend of Zelda game. To be honest, the more information that comes out for the NX, the more people just kind of lose their steam about it. Nintendo, their most recent first-party release, Star Fox Zero, which also came with another game. I don't think it's not Star Fox Command, is it?
I don't know.
I don't remember the name of the game that it came with, but it's like the lowest-selling first-party Nintendo release.
Is it Guard?
Guard, yes, Star Fox Guard, and it didn't do well in Japan. I don't think it did particularly well here. The controls were not great. When people were really excited about Star Fox as a franchise, they then delayed it. And to be honest, the Wii U is it's kind of a console waiting to be put out to pasture. With that said, as you mentioned earlier, we have the PS 4.5 that is on its way, which
What's your
basically
take on
is.
that? I mean, Ben and I, we came up to the theory is that it used to be like 8 to 10 years between the next generation of gaming console, and I kind of said, in this day of things becoming obsolete or being improved upon in like half the time, the newer computers, because technology is just moving so fast that having an 8 to 10 year window on game consoles really doesn't hold up anymore. And we're seeing things that are being developed at a much quicker pace. And so I guess this might be Sony's answer to high definition, 4K, all the things that have come out since the introduction of the PlayStation 4, and they have to do some catch up. So it looks like the 4.5 is going to it will do everything that the 4 will do. It'll be backward compatible, but it's going to have additional abilities that embrace the new technologies that have become more prevalent in the short period of time since the 4 came out.
Yep. The PS 4.5, I mean, essentially, I believe Sony released a statement to developers saying that like any game that you release that runs on the quote-unquote 4.5, which I've also heard referred to as like the Neo, I think is their code name.
Yes.
Also has to be able to run on a PlayStation 4. So this would be the equivalent of, if you remember on the N64, they released, it was called the expansion pack. It was essentially, I believe, an additional graphics processor or some sort of additional RAM, but it went into a slot in the front of the N64, and there were certain games that would look better with an expansion pack, but could still be played without them. There were still a couple that you couldn't play without an expansion pack. I think Donkey Kong 64 required an expansion pack, but regardless, the idea is that still same console, still can play most of the same games, but there are going to be some things that need that additional processing power. Apparently Sony has said no on the need additional processing power, but the big calls that people are saying this reaches out to is, again, the ability to display in 4K and some sort of readiness for PlayStation VR, which is going to be Sony's big foray into the world of virtual reality. It's going to be going toe-to-toe with the Oculus Rift and the HTC Vive, which are both, PC-centric. So the, PlayStation's going to own the virtual reality console space. Microsoft's HoloLens technology is more, it's an augmented reality. It's meant to kind of interact with objects that you can actually physically see around you. So PlayStation VR, it needs to hit, and it needs to hit correctly. As I did a demo with NVIDIA using the HTC Vive, and they said that when virtual reality drops under 90 frames a second, that's what makes people sick. So I wouldn't be surprised if the technology that was originally put into the PlayStation 4, perhaps sometimes it runs at 90 frames a second, perhaps sometimes it runs at 75. Perhaps sometimes it runs on 80. Either way, that's going to be enough to give some people some nausea. So the idea that they're coming out with a new, a stronger console, I think it also works in tandem with Microsoft's desire to push more into the PC, because PCs can consistently be upgraded. as opposed to consoles, which, like you said before, typically used to have that 8 to 10 year lifespan. But in this particular 8 to 10 year lifespan, there's been such a change in technology.
Yeah.
It becomes really evident when your technology is old.
Yeah, and also the Sony VR was never positioned to be a competitor to the Oculus or to the Vive. It was supposed to be a lower end, not as robust, quote unquote, VR headset. So
More a competitor to like the Gear VR.
I think that we have to think of competition in this case, not in the idea that they're going to provide similar experiences, but that they're going to appeal for somebody to get in. So yes, if somebody were to say, do I want to buy the Oculus or the PlayStation VR, those would be two very different decisions. But they do provide this different ability because each of those pieces of equipment is made to do different things. The HTC Vive is the only one that incorporates like full motion controllers with a full room that you walk around in, whereas Oculus, PlayStation VR, Gear VR, all of these are headsets that are made to interact with like a controller of some kind. But PlayStation VR does kind of have that ability to do full body range of motion by combining with the PlayStation camera in a somewhat similar way to the HTC Vive. And for folks who don't want to shell out for a gaming PC, or people who are trying to make a decision, I would like to do VR, in which way would I like to do it? I think that the PlayStation VR and a PS4 could be a rival in some situations to an Oculus or an HTC Vive, particularly, like you said, at price point.
what was that video you showed me the other day, Ben? That some girl had one of those VR headsets on, and
I have no idea where to find that again. But she was wearing a Vive, and it looked like she was in a crouching sitting position, and then she was afraid, and she got up and bolted with the VR headset on, and ran headfirst into the corner of the room with a houseplant.
Right into the wall.
Right into a wall. So. Yeah, sometimes I feel like the hilarious videos that we have on the internet right now, thanks to the Nintendo Wii and how many times they put it through through the screen of a huge TV or hit people in the head with it, we're going to get equal amounts of those videos with people, tripping, falling, running into the walls, just doing stupid stuff with no vision.
Absolutely.
And the thing is, like they feel like they have vision. That's the thing. They think they got a clear path ahead of them, and whereas reality, it's just a wall, and right into a wall or a table or something. Yeah, so.
But again, that's why that's why we did the story a couple days ago about the Oculus Rift coming to certain Best Buy stores around the country. 78, and they said or 73, and they were going to bring them to more. But VR. We can talk about it all day long, and believe me, we are going to, because VR is awesome. But yeah, it definitely is a big deal. But at the end of the day, you're not going to be convinced about the concept until you go out and try it yourself. You're going to say, how in the world can these people think they're dangling on the edge of a 500-story building when their feet are touching shag carpeting? Like, you can say that all you want, but until you actually go on and try the VR experience, you're not going to be persuaded.
Right. That's 100% true, and especially like if you get a chance to use the HTC Vive, which I have to imagine they'll set up somewhere. But having that full body walking around, reaching out, touching things, I thought I knew it because I play video games and I get graphics and whatever, but yeah, it's a trip.
Did you walk into any walls? Just out of curiosity?
No. I did the Everest VR, where you're supposed to be like climbing to the summit of Mount Everest, and they have you turn around and like look over the edge of a cliff. And I walked over to the edge of the cliff, and my steps got super tiny as I was walking to the cliff. And I'm saying out loud, like, I know I'm not on Everest. I know I'm in a room. I know I'm here. Like. And yet, I still I did not step over that edge. I couldn't do it.
It's like the Matrix. I mean, it's the thing. Are you? Is that air? Do you think that's air you're breathing? Remember that? I mean, here we watched the movie from the '90s. And it's oh man, that's so good. But and now here we are, and we're actually beginning to experience what he went through in the Matrix. I mean, that's to me is just amazing that the act. This is actually something like that is actually happening and is going to be available to just about anybody who wants to give it a try. But as you said, you really need to experience it for yourself. I know Ben experienced it when he went out to the Consumer Electronics Show. I know.
I know people who spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on flight simulator, setups. Where they have the huge monitors and they make their chair look like a cockpit, and they have all the monitors instead of viewing windows. But I feel like it's great, good. Glad you built a full replica of your favorite plane's cockpit with $8,000 worth of equipment, and you got real joysticks, and you got real aviation quality seats and rigs. But I feel like some of the best simulated flying is going to be done in virtual reality.
Oh yeah, no question about it. I mean, all that was the
Wait for the Superman VR. There's going to be no plane. It's just going to be you flying around.
Right. That was all the precursor, because that's all technology could afford at the time, could give to us. And now VR is the next step. So all those people who had all those kinds of setups are basically going to trash those and go for the VR setup, because it's going to be so much better than that they could ever do with just the big screens and what they had before, because now it's totally immersive. That's what they were trying to do, is go for the immersive experience. That was the best they could do at the time in the 90s and the early 2000s. And now, here we are.
Now you don't have to spend $20,000 on an entire control panel from your favorite Cessna.
No, you don't, because you can have it there virtually in front of you and see it and interact with it. So we are due for some exciting times. And especially people can afford that type of thing. I think it's going to be affordable to more people now. You won't have to be quite.
Well, and we were just talking about, or we touched lightly on the NVIDIA press release that just happened this past Friday, and their GTX 1080 and 1070, and those things right off the box are going to be VR ready. And instead of having a Titan X, which is going to cost you $1,000. The GTX 1080 is going to be $650. That's a $300 price drop in VR right there.
And ridiculously, and it's actually more efficient at VR than the Titan.
That too.
So you're getting more power for less money. It's
just 2 months into the whole purchase VR. Although I know it's not shipping, but 2 months into it, and VR just became $300 cheaper. It's things are going to come down in price very, very quickly.
Yeah, we're in for some radical changes, and again, that's why I don't think consoles are going to have the longevity that we've been used to when the PlayStation and the Xbox and then the Xbox 360 and the Xbox.
Yeah, but I feel like if PlayStation and Xbox get too similar to the upgrade paths that are available to PCs, then what's the point? Just the logo? I mean,
a low-end PC.
Right. Then you're just a PC, but instead you're just kind of streamlining it a little bit with the PlayStation.
Well, I guess that begs the question: are consoles doomed? I mean, eventually everyone can do everything with a computer. Why bother with the console when you can do everything with the computer, and it's going to be the same price level?
Yeah, I mean, the prognostication is an ever burgeoning field.
Yeah.
But though I think that the role of consoles will change, there's still an advantage to I paid $400 or $300. This will last me for X number of years. It doesn't do all the things my computer does, but that's okay because I have a cell phone. I still think that there are a lot of people who aren't super tech savvy and don't have any drive to be, who would prefer to just have their console so that they can play whatever game it is they're passionate about. And until Sony first publisher title, or I'm sorry, Sony first party titles, Nintendo first party titles, until those show up on PCs, there's still a draw to be on consoles as well.
Yeah, well, certainly for the next 10 years. Maybe. Josh, we're almost out of time. Why don't you? What are you up to these days? Where can people find what you're doing?
Sure. So obviously, the three sites that are easiest to find me at are gotgame.com, popzara.com, and intelligame.us. All three of those are happening, radical, fantastic, more phenomenal, whatever sites. Oh, we should have talked Power Rangers. Also, you can find me on Twitter at Wallstormer, WALLSTORMER. I'm on Google. I'm not really on Google Plus. I still have a profile there, I think. Yeah, I'm also on Instagram at Wallstormer if that matters to you. But yeah, I've got a couple tech reviews that'll be coming out for PopZara for a new USB cable, as well as some gaming glasses, the no scope glasses, which I've reviewed for a few times on Got Game. They have a new model that'll be coming out that I'll talk about for them. Also, obviously, we'll be creating some new content for Intelligame. We'll be writing up on Soul, Black Bar, and a few other games that I think have some interesting intellectual edges to them, and be talking a bit about idle gaming. So there's going to be a lot going on.
What could you possibly talk about with a USB cable?
Well, I mean, so the thing about it is it's a magnetic USB cable. So it's a port that plugs into the bottom of your phone, and
Very
then
cool.
the tip of the cable is magnetized.
All right. Well, listen, again, thanks for being with us here, Josh. Obviously, stay to the end. We're going to we'll have our little after show thing. But again, thanks to all of you for being with us here again on our Gamer Tuesday. Coming up tomorrow, Sandy Berger. Just talking to her the day before yesterday. Is going to
Berger? I barely know her.
Seconds.
Yeah, Sandy, our consumer electronics expert correspondent. She's going to be here with us talking about all the cool things that she reports on, and she's a huge Amazon Echo fan. But we're going to be talking to her. She'll be with us for both hours on tomorrow's show. Sandy Berger, okay? And again, thanks to all of you for being here with us. Again, thanks to Josh Boykin for being here with us on the show. And Ben and I will see you here, same time, same place, same station. So until tomorrow afternoon, this is Craig Crossman hoping that your hard disk never becomes floppy. We'll see you tomorrow.
Have a good one, everyone.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
Woohoo!
10 seconds. Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.
Okay, and again, thanks to all of you for watching our live video stream. Again, thanks, Josh, for being here with us. We'll see you next month, okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Have a good one.
All right, take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
See ya.